today we're going to work on making an integer row. As you can see, we're going to use masking tape and we're going to use scissors, and then this is just basically an Excel spreadsheet that I use, and I use the negative numbers of course and positive numbers. And what we're going to do is we're going to use our scissors to start out with, and I'm going to just cut with my integer roll. I'm going to cut the sheet of paper to where this side right here is right on this line, and then the rest is leaving a little bit just so that we can, as you see, I'll try to cut right on the line. Just so that when we put the masking tape on there, I'm going to have a little bit of a overhang so my scissors don't get all gunky, because cutting masking tape sometimes will leave them all gunky. Actually, I'm just going to leave that side there. Okay. So, now as you can see, nice straight line here. And the reason I did this is because we're going to connect back to here in just a few minutes. So we're going to turn this over, and we're going to take our masking tape, or painter's tape. You can use painter's tape if that's what you want. Of course, some painter's tape's blue and prettier than this. So I'm just going to put this on the back, making sure that I leave extra on this end. So I'm going to try to get it really good and flat too. I'm going to cover the whole back. I want every bit of it covered. This is going to make this very sturdy for our students. Oh, got a wrinkle. It's okay. I'll flatten out. Off there, it's okay. We're just going to double on this one. Now, I'm going to pull this off. I'll pull this off. As you can see, like I said, I wanted to leave extra here, which I did. I want to trim this up just a little bit too, just because I want it to be kind of even for me. Now that I've done that, I'm going to trim each one of these edges. Now that I've trimmed the edges, I'm going to take time to cut out each individual line, okay? So as you can see, I'm going to go right out through here. I'm going to cut each individual line out. Just like that. I want to continue doing that. Now that I've got each of these cut out, I want to actually put them together. So as you see the 25 here, I'm going to put it next to the 26. And I'm just going to make sure that I connect these evenly. And just roll it down through here like this. I may have to do some trimming here and there, so I'm going to do that. Now the 35 is my last number, so I'm just going to cut that off. And then 16, I'm going to connect to my 15. Just going to continue to connect these. This is something you can actually have your kids to do. What I like about these is they can take these home and they don't take up a lot of space in your classroom, because when they're finished, you can actually roll them up. That's why they're called an integer roll. You can roll them up and they're this size right here. And you can just put a paper clip on them, hold them together. But as you notice, we worked this one for -34, and it will go all the way through. To 35. So students can use this integer roll to work. You can actually make these larger for students who have, you know, problems with vision. You can have these, make sure they're, I try to color code them for the students so they understand negatives. They see the 0 as a kind of a neutral. It's neither negative nor positive. And then also the positive numbers in black. The reason I do this is most of the time, if I'm also using counters, my counters for negative are going to be red, and my counters are going to be either white or the yellow for positive. If I'm using blocks, I try to use red, or I try to use black for the negative, and I try to use black blocks for positive numbers so that they can match these up. Now, there's many things that we can do with this. We can do absolute value, and we can talk about the distance -4 is from 0. We can talk about the distance 4 is from 0. We can talk about the absolute value and which one is the greater absolute value. We can just find the integers on the number line and knowing where they're at. Talk about if a number is larger or smaller, and understanding that -8 is actually smaller than -4 because of the distance from 0. These kind of things can all be used with the integer roll. The other thing that we can do is we can actually do addition and subtraction with the integer roll, and I love that process, so we're going to talk about that next. So I talked about the fact that we were going to use the integer roll, but to use the integer roll, I like to use an integer wand so my students can understand what is actually happening when they're doing the addition and subtraction problems. So in order to create an integer wand, you're going to need just some clear tape, scissors, some type of paper or sticky notes is fine, and then of course the wand itself can be made out of a dowel stick, this is a straw, or even fuzzy pipe cleaners. So those are some things that we can use to make the integer wand. So to make the integer wand, of course, we're going to talk about positive and negative numbers. And one of the things that I like about this is, I'm going to use this sheet right here, is we talk about negative numbers, of course, and negatives on this side, positives on this side. But what I want to do is I want to put negative on the same side that it's on. So on the back, I'm going to put a negative, and I'm going to put a positive. Now, I'm going to cut this out. I want to create my integer wand. Here's my integer wand. And I'm just going to tape him, and I like to put it down a little bit farther because this is actually going to be my pointer part. I'm going to tape him down. I want to do the same thing on the back. Now, we have an integer wand for my students to use. Okay. Okay, as you can see, we have our integer roll laid out. We also have some problems here on the board, and we have our integer wand. Now, one of the things that I want you to be able to see today specifically is why we teach the procedure that we teach with the subtraction problem of we change the sign to addition and then change the sign of the second number. And so through exploring, our children will actually get to see that today. And we will not actually teach them that as a procedure, but they're going to come up with it on their own. Now, first of all, I want my kids to see 4 plus 3. So like I said, this is our integer one. I teach them to always start at 0. So this is the positive side, this is the negative, this is the way it should always start. Now, so my first problem is 4 plus 3, something they already know. So let's move over to the 4, positive 4, and we're going to go 3 more to the positive side. So 1, 2, 3, we are currently at 7. So my answer to 4 plus 3 is 7. Now, let's do the next one. Starting again at 0, positive going to the positive side, negative to the negative side. I'm going to go over to the 4, and now I'm going to add to the negative side 3. So when I look at this, I want to see to the negative side 3. 1, 2, 3, I'm at 1. So 4 plus negative 3 is 1. Now, the next one is negative 4, again starting at 0. Same thing. Positive going toward the positive, negative to the negative. I'm going to go to negative 4. I'm going to say, now I'm adding positive 3, so I'm moving to the positive side 3 times. 1, 2, 3, I'm at negative 1. So negative 4 plus 3 is negative 1. Now, again, starting at 0, positive going to the positives, negative going to the negative, I'm going to go to negative 4. This time it says I'm adding negative 3, so going over negative 3 times. 1, 2, 3, I'm at negative 7. So negative 4 plus negative 3 is negative 7. Okay, now for subtraction, we are not going to teach the procedure. The reason we're not going to teach the procedure is because I want the students to find out on their own as we go through the subtraction problems why we have to change the subtraction to addition and then change the sign of the second number. Why is that happening? So let's walk through this first, and then we'll talk about some of those things as we're doing that. The other thing is, when I talk to students about subtraction, I talk to them about it's the opposite of addition. So with it being the opposite of addition, we are going to use our integer row. And when we see a subtraction sign, we are going to flip our integer wand over. So we're going to use our integer row, we're going to use our integer wand, and when we see the subtraction, we're going to flip it over. Now, if you notice, when I flip it over and I do the subtraction, my positive is actually going to the opposite side. My negative is going to the opposite side. Now, as before, with all the subtraction problems, we're going to always start at 0. We're always going to start with the positive going toward the positive side, the negative going toward the negative side. So those are just a few things that we're going to keep in mind, same as the addition. Now, like I said, but we're doing the opposite of addition, so we're going to flip the wand when we see a subtraction sign. Now, for the 4, take away 3, we're going to move over to the 4, and it says we are going to subtract a positive 3. So subtract, I flip, I'm going to go to the positive side 3 times. 1, 2, 3, I'm at 1. Now, with this in mind, we just talked about, we flipped, we're doing the opposite of subtraction is that. The opposite way was actually toward the negative sign, so I could actually change this to 4, add negative 3, and that is 1. The same way as over here. Now, let's go ahead and look at this again. From this point of view, starting back at 0, I'm going to 4, I'm going to subtract, which means I flip. I flip and I'm going to the negative side 3. 1, 2, 3. I am at 7. Now, the next one, we're going to start at 0, positive going to the positive side, negative going to the negative side, just like before. I'm going to negative 4. I'm going to subtract, which means I'm going to flip. I'm going to the positive 3, positive side's this way, 1, 2, 3, I'm at negative 7. The next thing we're going to do is the negative 4, take away a negative 3. So starting at the 0, again, positive going to the positive side, negative going to the negative side. I'm going to go to -4. Now, it says subtract. I'm going to flip. I'm going to the negative side 3 spaces. 1, 2, 3. I'm at -1. Now, if we look at this and we go back through each one of these, I can say this was -4, change the sign of the second number makes it a positive. That's going to be -1. We can see how this comes back to this one here. We can see how this one here comes back to this one, because we can change this to a positive, change the sign of the second number, and it is the opposite of. So, I hope you enjoyed our video. Thank you.